Hello everybody, how are we all doing? In this video, I'm going to be talking about why exposures only get us so far and why they are not the golden standard. Now, exposures are very helpful. They are a key ingredient for the recovery journey. I did many exposures on my recovery journey, getting me to face my fears, leaving my comfort zone and cutting my compulsions with cutting the avoidances and so on. But if you just do exposures and nothing else, what will happen is the anxiety and all the symptoms of panic and guilt and shame will remain very high, and OCD won't budge because you can face a fear behaviorally. If you don't take a look at your perspectives, if you don't have a look as to why you're actually anxious, the belief systems that's fueling the anxiety, then the anxiety will remain fused. The panic symptoms will remain fused and they will linger and they will hang around because you're not actually dissecting the framework that's fueling that emotional response, which is the beliefs, the perspectives. Okay? So they only get you so far. And the analogy I always give is that let's say you had a fear of spiders, right? Now, of course, you'd have to pick up a spider. You'd have to be around spiders in order to overcome that fear. But you'd also have to change your perspective on spiders. You'd have to see how you're viewing them. Your outlook on spiders would have to change as well. Okay? So when you hear that ERP is the golden standard, if that were true, then that would mean that's all you'd have to do is just exposures. And you tell me that you have a fear, let's say HOCD, so sexual orientation OCD. I would just say, okay, just be around be around the same sex, be willing to feel anything, watch lots of documentaries, watch lots of TV shows all around LGBTQ+, and experience the discomfort, experience you getting triggered, and go with it. And you would sit there and you'd experience the anxiety, but nothing would budge. The symptoms would remain the same. Yes, it might bring the fear down slightly, of course, right? Because you're exposing yourself to that fear. But you'd have to take a look at your perspectives around what it is that you're actually scared of. Is it the fear of living a lie? Is it the fear of never truly knowing your sexuality? Is it the fear of being uncertain? Is it the fear of being gay? You'd have to take a look at that and dissect that fear and dismantle that fear with consistent and regular and also very vigorous disputing work. Okay, and I can't stress this enough on my journey. I can't stress this enough. Without applying rational thinking and unconditional self-acceptance and other acceptance and life acceptance, just unconditional acceptance in general, without applying that, I'd still be just as stuck. I truly believe that because I'd done many exposures and they did help and they were an ingredient in my recovery journey. They were. But what really unlocked the Deck's door, what unlocked the recovery for me and the long-lasting, sustainable, robust mental health and recovery from OCD was changing my perspectives, was really tackling the belief systems, the faulty belief systems, the irrational outlooks that I was holding around my fears and on the world in general, the lack of compassion and so on. Okay, so it's very, very critical to remember that. Okay, it will only get you so far. And like I say, the anxiety will remain high. It won't budge until the beliefs have been looked at. Okay, you can do all the exposures in the world. You can do every exposure that you've ever been set. And although that will help you to some degree, the anxiety will remain very high. It will remain very intense. It will feel life and death still. It will skyrocket until you've started to look at why you feel anxious, what the belief systems are, and then that starts coming down, but with time. Okay? So if you are finding that you are being advised that it's just exposure after exposure after exposure after exposure after exposure and you're not seeing much progress, then maybe that's why. Maybe you're not making that much progress because you're not actually taking a look at what's fueling the fear in the first place. Okay? Maybe that's the reason why you will remain stuck. And also with exposures, they can be chased, okay? Because, and I fell for this as well. So I was doing exposures and I would get some kind of, not only relief, but like feeling of accomplishment that, oh, I faced a fear, because it's brave. It takes serious courage to face a fear. So I think, oh, right, okay. So exposures, they're working because, I can see that I'm facing a fear. I'm no longer avoiding. I'm no longer performing that compulsion. So well done. That's good. So I then chase and chase and chase. I'd want that feeling more. I'd want that feeling of accomplishment and that feeling, that sense of overcoming your fear. But the problem is that can be chased for relief. And then just chasing that next exposure. What's the next exposure? What's the next exposure? What's the next exposure? Quite often, as a coach, people will ask me, well, what's my next exposure? What's my next exposure? I say, well, okay, we will do exposures. They are key, but you're going to have to take it one step at a time, one call at a time as we build up the hierarchy. Okay, because you don't want to just go straight into the deep end and completely scare yourself. But, you're going to have to build up eventually. But just saying that around the hierarchy, you're never going to feel ready to do exposures. It's never going to feel the right moment. It's always going to want to be put off until tomorrow. So there will be a point of time where you're going to have to just take that push and that leap of faith and go into sort of the exposure wilderness that I call it, where you're like, oh my God, I'm triggered all the time. Everything's triggering me. This is scary. Oh my God, I didn't think I could ever face this fear. And you're never going to just wake up and go, oh, today is the day I'm doing that exposure, because you're going to be dreading it. You're going to naturally be hesitant as a fly is about to fly into me. You're always going to be naturally reluctant to do them because they increase the anxiety. They spike the symptoms. Okay, and this is why you've got to view recovery as like a long-term thing as well, because as you are doing these exposures and breaking down the beliefs and working on your life structure and your lifestyle and all these things in between, your habits, all your different behaviors, as you work on these, it will increase your anxiety. The discomfort will go up. Okay, so you've got to try and view it as a long-term approach, a marathon, and as all these ingredients are combined and like forming the recipe of recovery, shall we say. Okay, so it's not just like belief work and that's it, because you've got to do behaviors. It's not just exposures and that's it. OCD sufferers can be very all or nothing. They tend to want an instruction manual, and I'm saying this from lived experience. I wanted an instruction manual. I wanted a blueprint of what was going to get me to recovery, and I just wanted to read like, do that exposure, then you're over it. And OCD is a memory from the past. It's a distant memory. That's what I wanted. But no, there are many different factors which all combine, and it's like putting them in a blender. It all blends together, and an out comes recovery. Right? It's not just one thing leads to recovery, not at all. And different themes may mean different exposures, but different intensity of exposures. So for example, if you've got contamination OCD, the recovery journey will mainly be exposure based. There will obviously be belief work there, of course, that is key. There will also be life structural changes, but that will also link into the exposures as well, because somebody with contamination OCD tends to be very boxed in, very avoidant, very sort of locked in that mental prison, avoiding any kind of germs or bacteria or anything that they deem as contaminated. So that will obviously affect their life structure as well. So that will come hand in hand as you work on that. Many exposures can just be life, for example, with sensory motor OCD or existential OCD, solely with that, it's living that life, living the life in front of you whilst feeling any sensation, having all the existential thoughts there. With sensory motor, dealing with the trap sensation, wearing it, embracing it, still doing things, still keeping up with your passions, your interests, your hobbies, even whilst you're focused on your blinking, even whilst you can't escape your breathing sensation, even when you feel trapped in the saliva sensation or just the heartbeat or whatever it is with sensory motor, whatever it is, there will be an exposure for it, and that can just be living life with the feelings there. Okay. So you can have, we go into detail in coaching calls, because exposures need to be targeted. They need to be tailor-made. I can't just give you on this call, hey, all of you do these 3 exposures, because, if you haven't got a certain fear, it'd be a waste of time. You know, I'm not going to set you a health exposure, for example, if you don't have a fear of dying or don't have a fear of getting ill or whatever it is, right? So this is why the coaching calls are very important. It's not a sales pitch. I'm just showing you how, you know, you need exposures tailored for you, because what we'll do straight away as a coach, I can see, well, what is you're scared of? What is you're putting off? And I'll set an exposure to go straight towards that, straight into the eye of the storm, to go right into that fear, walking through that fire. Obviously, whilst looking at the beliefs as well, but exposure's right, okay, you need to cut that avoidance, so you're going to do this, right? So we'll build up to that and we'll work together. We'll work in tandem, we'll work in cohesion as we build up the hierarchy. And exposures get harder and harder, as in they get harder initially, but the more you do them, they get easier as well. Okay, so they can, like now on your first session, you'll be thinking there's no way I can do that exposure, but the more you do one, and then you do two, and you do three, and you do four, suddenly all the ones that seem at the top of the hierarchy can seem easier. And that's how you know you're making progress, because things that you were initially putting off and running away from seems easier to do and go towards. Okay, and as obviously the beliefs are broken down, the perspectives are looked at, and the rational thinking starts sinking in, and the unconditional acceptance starts being embodied and philosophized. Okay, so yeah, exposures only get you so far. They aren't the golden standard. They're important, yes, but they aren't the be all and end all. They do not solve all your problems. They do not cure you from OCD. They're a big part of the journey, but they are not everything, and much more is needed, much more is required in order to truly recover in a robust way from chronic, severe, obsessive compulsive disorder. If you are interested in one-to-one calls where we can look at some exposures for you, we can tailor them for you, we can specialize them for you, we can set some targeted ones, which is what we'll be looking to do. And please email phil@ocdrecovery.com, and you can message his WhatsApp number in the description of this video. Send him hundreds of messages. He'll be very grateful for that. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like. Any video suggestions, please leave comments, and I'll be more than happy to take a look and have some video ideas from you. Guys, take care, look after yourself, and we will speak again. Bye-bye.